you doing mailings?
Of course.
Yes.
Did you
yeah.
get it?
Yes, I did. It was a beautiful.
We're gonna be
picture
starting
of
in
you.
2 minutes.
work?
2 minutes.
It's a friend of mine's son who designed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that was very good.
Oh, yeah. Every angle of it.
So, did you have to go to all those clerk's offices to get
Uh-huh.
addresses?
Uh-huh. Yes, it is. Yeah.
So at
And they
least
weren't
you-
so nice to me like Leon. Or they don't know me, and they're more Republican.
Oh, and he's running against you. How many?
No, I've got service recognition and retirements.
Oh, okay.
That's what I've got. I don't have these doesn't say birthdays.
That data hard.
I guess. Wow.
It's, yeah, I'm learning a lot about myself too. I can do things I never thought I'd attempt.
You know, going door to door was always hard for me, but once you say hello at the door,
Yeah.
it's okay, but it's,
I'm okay about that.
Yeah.
It took me a while too, because
What's that?
You need to amend the consent agenda to add what we just talked about.
Okay, okay. Do I do it, or I thought the person that makes the
yeah,
motion does
the
it?
dogs would
The
be.
big dogs.
Need to be
Yeah.
done. Need to be done before we accept the agenda.
And I can't outrun them anymore, Sharon.
No,
I just can't.
You need to amend the consent agenda before you accept the agenda.
Okay. Okay, meeting's called to order at 6 o'clock. Clerk Wright, would you, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Clerk Wright, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Borden. Here. Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Frazier. Is absent and excused. Treasurer Bud. The clerk is present. Supervisor McNamara.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Today's executive summary, we're going to have a consent agenda consisting of a work-study meeting minutes, board meeting minutes, prepaid lists, voucher lists, approval of an IGA with Wayne County for the French Landing Park improvements, a $34,984 grant. We'll also be having the approval of our tax rate, which is still the second lowest in Wayne County and has not changed from last year or many years now. We are also adding, by acclamation to the consent agenda, that Van Buren Township will join Waste Management of Michigan Incorporated in a civil lawsuit against the Wayne County Conservation District regarding wetlands. There will be a public hearing today to receive comments on the Van Buren Estates Haggerty Subdivision Sidewalk Program. New business also includes our annual audit, which is something we go through every year, a personal service agreement for our new Director of Water and Sewer, Kevin Lawrence, a personal service agreement for our new Director of Parks, Joseph Ketchum, and the first reading of ordinance to amend our waterways to allow, we're working on new rules for the waterways, basically taking the state's rules and putting them into our books. Let's see, also we're gonna be doing a fire prevention code ordinance today, and we're gonna be doing the selection of guideposts for the community center project. They're a security design consultant. We also have to do cleaning for our new senior center that we moved to Haggerty Road, which will be opening on Monday. And discussion of resolution to accept a jurisdiction and maintenance responsibilities for the Iron Bell Trail, which is getting ready to start construction. So moving on, can I get somebody to make a motion to adopt the agenda, adding in, Trustee Martin, would you like to make add that to the consent agenda and make the motion for adoption of the agenda?
Should be just attorney-client privilege.
This is for the consent agenda. We have to adopt the regular agenda right now. Right.
Well, we'll adopt the agenda, which includes the consent agenda.
It It has to go with the adoption of the agenda.
Yeah. So we adopted, so you move adoption of the agenda with the addition of that to the consent agenda.
Supervisor, I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented with the addition of the approval to join waste management and the civil lawsuit against Wayne County Conservation District.
Support.
I have a motion, I have support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, thank you. Can I get adoption of the consent agenda, and who would like to read it?
Get it for you.
Mr. Boynton, trustee Boynton.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as follows. The work study meeting minutes of May 17th, the board meeting minutes of May 17th, prepaid list of May 19th, May 26th, June 2nd, June 9th, and June 16th, the voucher list of June 7th and June 21st, all of 2022, the approval of Resolution 2022-09, fiscal year 2021-2022 IGA with Wayne County for French Landing Park improvements for an amount not to exceed $34,984, and also to approve of Resolution 2022-11 tax rate request, along with the approval to join waste management in a civil lawsuit against Wayne County Conservation District.
I would support that, but the last item is not a part of the consent agenda
Why isn't it?
because it's in the regular board meeting back here.
What's that?
Because it's
Okay.
been added to here. It's not, wasn't added to the consent agenda. It was added to new business down here.
It's not part of consent.
It's not.
Okay, then I drop off the last one.
All right.
I already supported it.
Let's support.
I'm confused as heck. Who's speaking to me? You made,
Don Boynton made the motion.
Bell Trail is not on that, but the other is, Waste Management is.
Waste Managers it's not on the consent agenda. I supported the consent agenda without that item. That
And
item has been added to new business
Somewhere.
over here.
Who added that?
He did when he made the motion.
Okay, we can do it either way.
I pulled waste management from my motion on the consent agenda, so we're good on the consent agenda.
I can see why.
All right, do we have a motion?
Yes,
Yes.
Support?
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're usually better than this. We got a little confusing one here. Okay, moving on then. Public hearing. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Public hearing. Public hearing to receive a comment from Van Buren Estates, otherwise known as Haggerty Subdivision Sidewalk Program. Is there anybody wishing to come up and speak about the sidewalk program?
I would make a motion.
You open it
the public
first.
hearing.
I second that emotion.
We're all a little bit, okay, all in favor of opening the hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing's open. Okay, yeah. All right, come on up, if you would like to come up.
Been a resident here since about 1984 in Haggerty Sub.
Yeah, Mike's not on. He'll fix it.
I said I've been a resident here since about 1984. Now, I know some of the sidewalks are damaged, but who decided on to go ahead and say we have to fix our sidewalks? And what about the senior citizens and the other people that can't control pay with
Okay,
this?
so the people of Van Buren Township are liable for anybody that trips and falls on your sidewalks. And it's a new thing. And we are asking almost every subdivision and HOA out there to fix their sidewalks. Most of them have. Haggerty's was much larger. This board passed a resolution to help Haggerty Sub and pay for a lot of the money. And I think it's gonna be over $100,000 to help out Haggerty Sub to pay for those. We got a great bid in. Once we check it out, it's going to be extremely inexpensive to do. It's gonna be almost half, we think, if everything pans out.
Estimate of 800.
Then you
On my
probably are going,
property.
then I'm going to say that we just got the bids in today. There is no way you're going to get a final bill of 800 based on the bottom three bidders. It could be as low as 450 over 3 years.
And the other question I'm going to ask, besides the sidewalks, what about our roads? We got potholes in the sub.
It's Wayne County, that's Wayne County's road. And so Wayne County's gonna have to fix those.
Individual is responsible for their own sidewalk, is what you're saying.
That is the state of Michigan law.
So it's up to the individual to go with your contractor or their own, right?
Either way, but you're responsible for it. The only thing we can do is we can force you to fix it, and we can actually go fix it, and we can either put it as a lien or on your taxes.
Okay, what about senior citizens that can't afford that amount?
I am not allowed to, I can't say that I am not allowed to give something to one person and not to another person. This board is not allowed to do that, and this board,
Citizens?
no, this board can't do that. But what they can do is they can say, okay, here's the whole group of Haggerty Sub. We're going to help you by spending, and I think it's $120,000 that we're estimating that we're spending to help you to keep your costs down lower. So we're doing a lot to try and keep it down.
Okay. And now, what time period do we have to fix these sidewalks?
You have, I'd have to call my director of that, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't say. But based upon the numbers I'm seeing, if I were a homeowner in Haggerty Sub, I would sit tight and let us do it. We're getting great prices in. We're gonna put it out over 3 years. We're already supplementing the cost a little bit.
Percentage rate?
Oh, I think we're 2 or 3. 1.5%.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we're not out to make money on you. We're taking our money and investing in our neighborhoods.
Can't do it.
They have to do it if they want to own a home.
Okay, I'm asking for other seniors as well.
All seniors, if they want to live in a home, have got to maintain their homes.
So I understand that. Okay, I guess basically here is, I understand that the sidewalks needed to be repaired, but also the roads do too.
Agreed, we can't do that, can we?
No, the roads are separate from the sidewalks.
You'd have to get Wayne County to do it, and Wayne County won't. They'll tell you you have to pay for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, and next. Come on up, Eddie, come on up. Anybody that wants to speak, if you want to line up, go ahead. If there's one particular person you want to talk to, go ahead. Larry, could you come up and stand over here, because I will need you sooner or later. Yes, sir. Just name for just say hi.
Corey Monroe, 9893 Van Buren. I have a question. I'm a corner lot. I know I'm gonna get hit harder than anyone else, but I walked 20 houses each way, and there's huge discrepancies in the green dots that have been put out. So my neighbor has 2 cracked ones, no trip hazards. They're just falling apart. I have one that's also cracked, wasn't green dotted. I have ones that are green dotted with no reason to them. The slab's in one piece. It's not a trip hazard. I've been here for 7 years, and I've had the same trip hazard in front of my house the whole time. And then you guys are telling us that we have, what, 3 months to get this handled, or we're paying for it? I just don't see that if it's been a law, unless it just took effect yesterday.
Yeah, the Jeopardy,
7 years, and it was a giant tree that I've taken down on my own property, cut it down. I know that's why that's raised, but for 7 years, it's been okay, and now the first meeting obviously was a problem. That's why I'm here today, because I want an answer. Like, why 7 years?
okay, why 7 years? This board was not here. This
I get
board.
it, but
Okay,
did the law just
okay,
happen?
so we have money in the bank, and we want to, we need it for a rainy day.
Sure.
And we've decided that we wanted to invest into our neighborhoods. We know Haggerty Sub has got a major problem.
Yep.
This legal jeopardy thing is a little bit new. I mean, it's been around, but it's really kind of new. I have Dave Potter sitting in the back, and Dave, I'm going to need you to come forward a little bit. Your house and every single solitary slab of concrete has a green dot on it, has a engineer that wrote out why it has that green dot on it. And Larry, everybody that has called, he's come out to talk to and to show them why they have that green dot.
That's not true. I called him the day I was supposed to meet with him, the day I had work off.
Okay,
Didn't meet up.
okay,
He called me the next day while I was at work. I recalled him saying, my wife's at home. She's 9 months pregnant,
oh,
but please talk to her and explain it, and I'll hear through, her. And my wife never got a phone call that day, and I've never gotten a return call.
okay, I'm sorry,
So-
but we will be out there tomorrow, or whenever you want me to be there.
A guy that I've already called and said, hey, listen, I need a quote. And he comes out and he goes, well, what am I quoting here? Is it green dot to green dot? Is it only the 5 with green dots? Because, I'm at $1,800 is the approximate estimate you sent me. And I don't have more than 5 green dots.
Okay, so Larry, could you go up for just 1 second? You don't need to sit down, but Larry, could you go up for just 1 second? So those quotations that were sent out were based on how many dollars per cubic foot or square foot?
The original estimate was sent out at $12 a square foot.
And the 3 lowest bids that we have received as of hours ago that have not been vetted, but the 3 lowest bids are?
They range between $6 and $9 a square foot.
So you were quoted based on $12 a square foot.
Okay.
The low bidder is in a little over $6 a square foot. And we found that guy by going to Canton, where they have a township-wide sidewalk replacement program where they're doing the same thing and making people change it out, and they have the Canton contract. So I believe they're going to be vetted out pretty well, because we watched them for days doing this to see how they did it. So that whatever number you got, I'd take 45% off of it.
Okay, that's helpful. I just want to know the urgency is the second thing. Like I said, my sidewalk hasn't changed. My sidewalk hasn't changed in 7 years. It's been the exact. I could pull up the Zillow listing, and you can see that gap in the front of my house. So the having a timeline of 3 months is pretty quick, and having the timeline of me having to call you guys and say I'm going to have a private contractor do it within a month, that gives me no time. And then most concrete guys out there are pre-booked through the spring. So to get a private contractor out there, you basically tied my hands where I can't do anything but take your original bid of $12 a square foot, which was a little high.
In the
Six
past-
is
okay.
a lot better.
Yeah.
6 is a lot more across the board.
Yeah.
I've done the research. That's about what I would be charging with my guy. But when, it looks like you guys just,
No,
and shooting high, I get it. I'd rather be high than low, but I don't understand the approximate thing either.
we're an elected body, and believe me, the last thing we want to do is tick off 750 homeowners.
Well, obviously,
Okay.
I'm not stupid. It's
But
just,
as Trustee Martin just said, explain to him the liability. We don't get sued much. But we are going to get sued if we don't do something that is so obvious and blatantly obvious as the condition of 60 years of that letting sidewalks go south and Hagerty south.
and I'm not saying that I've known that I'm liable for that. I get that part. I lived in Dearborn, which is way
They
more
have one
strict.
too.
Way more strict. But you know what Dearborn did? They came out and they put asphalt on every single crack. So it wasn't a trip hazard, it was more of a bump. And you could get strollers and wheelchairs and stuff through these bumps. And if you guys would have said, hey, listen, this needs to be fixed, obviously fixing it, but it seemed pretty strong-armish to set the timelines like you did and not give us anything so this timeline with the bids, you guys didn't even have all the bids in before I need to be calling you. I have at the end of the month to call you and say I'm doing a private contractor or not. Last I checked, that's 9 days.
We started last year. Problem was, we had a lot of problems with directors, COVID. We went through a few, and
Yeah, and
we had the great resignation. But the bottom line is, it is a tight timeline because we want to get it done. We're done. We're done playing around with this. We're liable. We're going to fix it. And quite frankly, this board has made more than one statement of the fact that, and we recognize Van Buren goes as Hagerty Sub goes. When Hagerty Sub is in great shape, we are all good because you're our gateway community. We have to make sure that you guys are taken care of. We have to make sure, we're going to try our best to make sure that you guys look good. Because you guys, I'm serious. Your price, your housing prices have skyrocketed twice as much as anybody else
Absolutely.
percent-wise. It's just, and you've taken care of your community. You got a great subdivision. Let's keep the ball rolling.
So is there any leniency? Are we gonna get someone out there to, if I have these six green dots and I replace
Yes.
those 6 green dots?
He will be there,
but
and if he
hold
does,
on, hold on, please. If I replace the 6 green dots and I have pictures of those 6 green dots, you guys aren't gonna come to me in a month saying, oh, well, this was a trip hazard too.
No.
You guys didn't replace this, and then I'm gonna get a bill from you and a bill from my guy.
no,
So whatever's green dotted, by what date?
no.
What
Larry,
date?
Larry
You
can
know?
answer that.
Okay.
So, as you said, you're gonna take photos. The township, we have photos of your property as well.
Yeah.
And it's not, we don't putting a burden on you at all. This had to be done. I walked miles and miles around that
I get it.
subdivision, as some of the residents know me firsthand. I'm sorry I miss you.
I get it.
But
Things happen, but
I will follow you. If we get out of here and it's daylight,
Mhm.
I will follow you home. We'll look at
Perfect.
every green dot you have. Okay?
yeah, that's fine. I'm okay
We'll
with
take,
it.
we'll take care of it.
I want it up front. I want to know what the problems
Well,
are.
we had this, so the process is, I had to present this to this board, get them to agree to taking on this project, and we quoted it at $12 because, as you know, everything is up right now.
Sure.
And the worst thing could have happened if I said $8 and it came in at $12,
Yeah, you'd
and
have a lot
then
more
I'd
pissed
be
off
running
people.
out of here like.
Yeah, you'd have a lot more pissed off
Absolutely.
people. Sure.
So, we're not here to harm you. It's my job to make sure you're taken care of. This engineer, Dave Potter, was out there. They marked up all the dots, so that way it wasn't no favoritism from the
Well, I don't
township.
care about that. It's,
I know,
it's just
I get it.
me walking, looking, me knowing nothing, me not being an engineer.
Okay, we've got to finish this because we have people
Yeah,
waiting.
Thank you.
So, you want to hang around?
Yeah, he's got my address.
Let me see if he wants me to comment.
That's the biggest
Did you want me to comment?
Be close by, okay?
I'm looking at the statute right now.
On Buchanan Street, I know some of you, some and hi Larry, he's a good guy. However, I'm being charged almost $900 for what? And my point is, I've been there since the early 70s. I'm an original. Now, my sidewalk in front of my house, there is not a crack in any of them. The thing of it is, like Larry says, 4 of them kind of tilt. Not severely, but just, I mean, I wish you all could come in front of my house, take a look at my sidewalk, and wonder, why is she gonna be charged $900? And I've got people, excuse me, I've been walking around too and looking, and I'm seeing, excuse me, sidewalks that have these big roots. And I mean, goes up one sidewalk, I mean, it's like this, a lot of them. Now, I don't have any tree. I don't have any tree roots. It's just, I'm not at fault for the way the ground, the soil erodes over the years. It does. It does it naturally. It's part of nature. Geez, pardon me with the scratchy voice, but how do I don't know how this got to be tilted.
I have an engineer behind you that decided the green dot.
Tilted.
And I have Larry
However,
that I bet knows every dot on your house.
he knows my yard, my house, and everything. Wait, well, no, I didn't walk with you. Little bit. But now, I even asked Larry, now what are you gonna do with these people that I have several on my street that have the sidewalks uplifted so bad, I don't know how the kids go Halloween night. Really, I'm surprised after all these years. Like that one fellow said, I've been there, I've never been sued or anything. Besides that, we have homeowners insurance. You mean to tell me that a person that falls in front of my house can sue you and then turn around and sue me?
Yep.
Well, good luck. Maybe they can double dip that way. But I'm covered because I pay for my homeowner insurance. And I don't see, like I say, my sidewalk is intact. There's not any cracks. There's one by the edge that's a little bit, and I'd say it's this lifted. It's not like some I've seen.
Ma'am, I can have them come back out, and I know after 3 times being in here, I'm probably gonna have to have an engineer come out. And if we're wrong, we're wrong, but I don't think so, because he's been out enough.
I have seen the houses with the trees, uplifted sidewalks. I can take you to a couple of them. They have three green circles or 4, and I have 5 right smack in the middle of my sidewalk. And it's not cracked. None of them are cracked.
Mr. Potter, do you have any idea why? This is our engineer, our very high-priced, extremely good engineer.
Dave, I'm Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, the criteria that we used wasn't as critical as it could have been. This is a pilot project, and the purpose was to get rid of major trip hazards. And those were defined as 3/4 of an inch. If the tree roots had uplifted the sidewalk or there was settlement, anytime there's a break in grade, it becomes a trip hazard. And we didn't even get into if it was trapping water and things like that. There was a multitude of criteria. It depends on how cracked the sidewalk was. At some point, we had one senior engineer with 40 years of experience marking this up, our inspector, John Beck, and we use one person for that purpose, to be consistent. And John's done a lot of these sidewalk projects. We GPSed them, we photographed them, try to be consistent. If a piece of sidewalk, a flag, 4x4 or 5x5 received a green dot, it's because it met that minimum criteria. And it could have been settled, it could have been heaved, it could have had one crack, it could have multiple cracks, and that's how these were marked. We try to not be so aggressive, and some of them, they're cracked, but they're not differentiated, so those were not marked. They should be repaired, you know, by the homeowner. Eventually, it's gonna start moving. I've got them. I've got to repair mine. But that's how that criteria was done. So they received a green dot if we felt that they needed to be replaced. And and if they request that they be looked at again, Larry's available. We're available to assist Larry and have the same guy go out there and look at them too.
All right. Thank you. I can send somebody out for tomorrow, but if you would like to, one last quick question, because we're making a lot of people.
I have a question. You said $12
Step up to the
a
microphone.
square.
Oh.
How is that?
Let me, yeah, I'll clarify that. When we first started the project, we have to come up with a reasonable estimate. What do we think it's gonna be in this economy and after COVID and everything? We started with $10 a square foot. When gas prices started going up and we started seeing construction prices going up the last year with inflation, we went to $12. We said, hey, we recommend using $12 a square foot. I got handed to Larry here. He did the recruiting in Canton Township, and we personally reached out to a dozen contractors trying to get them to bid the job. It's a pilot project. If they've never worked here, they're gonna be curious about working for Van Buren Township. Larry reached out, that contractor showed up 2 minutes before the bids were due and submitted a great price.
Good.
$645 a square foot compared to 12, so that's 54% of, so whatever estimate was on the letter to begin with, you know, it's a little more than half of that. And we're very happy about this. We have a pre-award meeting scheduled with that contractor Monday to vet them out, but we're confident that we'll be making that recommendation to you. It's a great price. Can't beat it.
So you're saying that the invoices that the residents received or estimates
Yes.
will be much lower?
Yeah, a little more than half.
So when will they get new
So they'll get their
letters?
final bill after the project is done, then they'll get a final billing based on the actual work that was done.
Well, I think something should go out to tell them that, you know, once we have this contractor in
Yeah.
place, that, hey, look, folks, it's not gonna be as costly as it was first was when it was looked at. I'm sure those residents are, you know, having a hard time swallowing such a large amount right now, but if we could get something out that says, hey, it's not gonna be quite so high, so, this is the
That's a
final
good point.
price. Yeah, we
It's a
should
good
do
point.
that.
We just learned this, the bid opening was at 2:00 today, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
good, it's good news, so, you know, we're trying to spread
Sure.
that. And tonight was a good venue to start that.
I have a question for Dave. In that sub, is everybody's front sidewalk, the squares, are they all the same?
No.
Everybody has different measurements.
And let me say this, what I'm finding out is most of them are marked at 4x4. But when I got out there with an actual tape measure, it may be 4x3/4. So when they pour that, guess what? I'm gonna be out there with a tape measure, and the only thing he's gonna bill you for is what he actually pours. No matter what's on that estimate. Remember at the top, it
Yeah,
said
here's
estimate.
my estimate.
That's just an estimate.
You think I'm gonna only have half of this?
Yes.
A little more than half.
A
54%.
little over half. This
Yeah.
is 86.
Over 3 years.
Almost $900.
Over 3 years.
Years.
4% of that is what it's looking at.
Now,
That's a good deal.
it's a good deal, okay.
That is a great.
At 1%, 1.5%.
I'm gonna take it to my township. So, Clerk Wright? Clerk Wright, hold on, everybody. Clerk Wright.
I'd like to add something right quick if I could. I'm township clerk, but I'm also the homeowner association for Andover Farm. We live right across the field, your neighbors across the field. And we're in the process of doing sidewalks too. We had a luxury of having a homeowner association, but the difference is this, is that you have a board here that's stepping up and doing the work for you. Right now, I'm going through the process of trying to get the homeowners to fix their own sidewalk. Yes, the Michigan State compiled law states that you must take care of your sidewalks, or a township or the entity can actually assess up to a 10% surcharge to do it themselves. We're not gonna do that. I wish I could get the township to do what you guys are getting done now, because I'm telling you now, here in $6 a square foot, we're getting prices all over the place, and my homeowners are going outrageous to the point that I'm thinking about canceling the order and having a meeting in the fall and trying to do a one-time assessment and do it all at one time. Anytime you can get it all done at one time, you're gonna get a better price, and you're getting a better price here, because concrete trucks are not gonna come in to do 4 or 5 squares, we call them squares, at one time, and that's the problem we're having. I've contacted numerous of contractors over the last month, and they won't come in. When I tell them that they got to deal individually with a homeowner themselves, they refuse to do the job. They're like, it's not worth it. So I got to go back to the drawing board and hopefully present what we're presenting. This is a good idea. I've been on the board this is my 4th term. You know how long I've been here, me and you. But I'm gonna tell you, what we're doing now as a board is very proactive. It should have been done a long time ago. You're right. The gentleman was 7 years. It should have been done before you bought the house. It should have been done a long time with you. Unfortunately, you don't have a homeowner association in there. Going forward with all the new subs, that was presented to the township board when it came in, that once the bills are finished, that they would turn it over to a homeowner association who's in charge of taking care of, overseeing the property. But I'm just gonna reiterate, $6 a square foot is a excellent deal. If anybody's contemplating doing it themselves, I wouldn't do it. I would jump in on this deal, and the gentleman said he's gonna have somebody do it. I would jump in and have it done at $6 a square foot in a heartbeat.
I agree with you, and I would rather have the township supervise it and get it done.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And what I'm objecting to is the fact that I'm going by what is quoted here, and I'm thinking, this is not fair. I don't even have any uprooted sidewalks. My sidewalks don't even have, right, Larry, you see my sidewalks.
He's gonna
We'll have to get it out.
Check yours. You may not have that
We'll have to
much.
get another letter. Okay, I've got to move things along because the
But I have
gentleman
one-
behind you is probably getting tired of standing.
No, he's a gentleman. He's been very, I got one more comment. All well and good to have good-looking sidewalks, but what about the blight that I see in my neighborhood? You got everything from boats to you name it, and I have seen rodents running around there because a lot of people over there, they just throw the trash right out.
Thank
Out
you.
the door. Right, Larry? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, you've been very patient.
I'd like to thank Larry for coming out right away when I called. He did. He came out and we stood there and agreed to disagree. What I want to ask about is I don't have any heaved concrete. I have a crack, and I'd like to show it to your engineer.
And then Mr. Potter behind you knows more than I do.
And I just don't think that piece of concrete needs to be replaced. It's just a crack. And I understand about water getting down in cracks and heaving, but that could be every section of sidewalk in the world. When it does, I'll be more than happy to fix it. And I do the sidewalks in the wintertime, 3 houses on either side of me so the kids don't have to walk in the streets. Trust me, when you hit a crack with a snow blower, it hurts. I'm glad you're fixing the sidewalks.
That's why I marked it.
I know it's cracked.
Right.
But that's also the crack there, but there's no trip
So
hazard
you could patch that.
and there's no gap.
Well, if you patch that yourself and talk to Larry.
There's nothing to patch.
Well, that little crack there, that's defined as a trip hazard.
It's flat. There's no there's no, the concrete's in there. That's just grass on top of it.
Right. If it's grass, if it's not a
I'm not
crack,
arguing with my engineer. I'll be arguing with them all day.
okay.
Well, I've already called him. He's been out there. He's seen it.
Is it
And
cracked?
he basically, it's just a crack.
Is it open?
No, it's not. You can't stick a piece of paper down in there.
If it's not, then we just paint over it. We're not gonna fix it. That easy.
I shouldn't even have come. No, I appreciate it. And like I say, Larry and I stood there and we talked about it, and I understand about the heaving, but if that's a problem with any crack, then every place there's grass growing up between the flags of concrete is a crack. Water can get in any of them, and that's the world. And when it does crack, a plane could fall on me tomorrow, but it hasn't yet.
We're
If
looking
that-
for differential, okay?
Yes, and there is none.
And if it's open
Okay.
or?
There
things like
is
that,
not, it's
okay.
not open, it's just
So he
cracked.
must have seen that it was.
Well, there
a
was, like I
gap.
say, there was dirt and
Yeah.
leaves and grassland on it.
You call him. he
That's why I
scratches
cleaned,
it
see how
off the
white that
lips.
was?
Yeah.
I took a
yeah.
wire brush and cleaned it up
That's
so you
what
can see the
that's
crack.
what it looked like, so.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sorry, miss. Thank you.
I could say most of it too, but my original estimate was $3,000, and which seemed outrageous. And I'm on a corner house, but I got 3 questions real quick. One from the first table was, what's the red dot mean?
That's the township's responsibility. We're gonna take care of all.
Because
red
there's like a
dots.
meter or
Yes.
something?
Yep,
Either
gate valve.
Corners.
Yeah. So any bad sidewalk that has a meter or anything in it, that's our responsibility. We'll replace that.
Okay, number 2, I thought the original letter said that there wouldn't be any interest to the 3 years. Am I mistaken on
We
that?
never would have said that. The residents of Van Buren Township, we have a fiduciary duty to make money off of their money that we have to hold as rainy day funds. And we don't make much, so we're not charging you much. We just would like it to be replaced so that those residents can be made whole.
And
1.5% on your $100 or $3,000, I don't know what 1.5% would be over 3 years, but
Well, it's gonna be
Maybe
lower than that.
$10, yeah. We don't make much.
I just thought the first letter said that.
Yeah,
And then I
sorry.
heard today something else. And then my third question is, once we pay to get these repaired in 2 years, if the same blocks crack, what are you doing so we don't have to do this again? I mean, do you get a guarantee from the,
I don't know, is there a guarantee?
1 year for maintenance after the work's done, for workmanship.
there should be something better than that. I mean, our roads suck. Haggerty, I've been living on Haggerty and we've done it like 3 years in a row. They've been fixing Haggerty and they've fixed it before. So, I mean, I think we should get a good guarantee if we're getting forced to do it and we're getting forced to pay for it.
We're handing over the same guarantee that we're getting, 1 year.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If you're a private contractor, you probably get 30 days.
But we're not getting forced by them to do this. You guys are charging us.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand, my definitely needs to, but I didn't plant the tree that's causing the issue. And so when they come through and do the blocks, and they take out 90% of the roots, who's gonna be paying for the tree to come down?
Which side of the tree? Is it on the,
It's all on the boulevard, it's.
okay. Mr. Potter, could you step forward and explain to her? This is a sad thing, yes.
Okay, the trees are located between the sidewalk and the roadway, which means that it's a Wayne County right-of-way. And those trees are owned by Wayne County. The township has a general permit that allows you to perform sidewalk improvements, and then that privilege is extended to the residents via permits, which is why there's a permit application process. If there's a tree that's heaving the sidewalk, the contractor is required to cut those roots. They'll take a chainsaw, they'll lift the sidewalk, and then they'll grind those roots out of the way. There's no guarantee that tree's gonna live or die. It's a Wayne County tree, and that's basically the end of the program. Once those roots are cut, they remove the surface roots and they'll grind them down maybe 4 to 6 inches below the final sidewalk grade.
So in your expertise, do the trees generally live or die?
If we're not removing more than 30% of the trees, the tree roots, okay, the tree has a good chance of living. But it depends on age. It's just like us, you know, I mean, depends how old that tree is. You could stress it out. If we're in a dry period and you stress it. So the residents can feed the trees. They can put spikes in there, or they can put fertilizer in there to help that tree kind of bridge this, but no guarantees.
I'm sorry, ma'am, there is no guarantees either from the Township of Van Buren.
Who's responsible for taking it down?
Actually, it'd be Wayne County, but we know what kind of a workout that's gonna be.
Well, it's also Wayne County's.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we've been told,
We gotta pay for it to replace.
what we've been told is they might say, yep, it's our tree and we'll see you in 4 to 6 months. Okay.
If they show up in 4 to 6 months, you let me know. I'll crack up a bottle of champagne. But, you know, within a year or two, they should.
If the tree decides to live, it's gonna raise the sidewalk again. So am I gonna be
Actually,
responsible for it
Yeah, most,
again?
yes, you are.
But I didn't plant the tree. They took down one tree and they put the tree in. And I didn't give them permission to do it. Came home and it was in the yard. That was many years ago.
I've had this argument with myself. I agree with you 100%. But life's not fair. This one's, if that tree does it again, it's still on you. I wouldn't think it's gonna do it to you again next 4 or 5 years.
If I keep the house forever, it's sooner or later it's gonna happen again. And here's another question is, my neighbor has no squares marked, but she got an estimate for $190. Why?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
We'd have to.
I don't
see the
know.
address.
Yeah, there's nothing there, so is everybody gotta pay somewhere or something?
No.
So,
It could have been.
715 homes out of 750, so yeah, everybody pretty much.
went out and looked.
Well, today I went out to a lady's home that said she didn't have any squares marked either. And I went out, she was at work, and I found her green dots under a couple of leaves. So I made her a big green
Yeah, I know,
dot,
I've maintained my neighbor's yard, so there is none.
Well, I can come out. Just give me the address. And I did several. Because, you know, it's property lines, you know,
Yeah, I
some
know ours,
homes-
They can
our
always-
blocks are right on.
Yeah,
They
some
can
homes
remove
gonna
the tree and
split
plant
one
another.
square.
It won't plan to live.
What's your address, ma'am?
Mine is 416.
Yeah.
Cut mine down.
They cut yours down?
I cut it down. I removed it and
Most people
planted,
do.
replanted a new one.
Most people do. Okay, is there anybody else that wishes to speak?
Is, once they tear it up, they're gonna be tearing up our yard. Who's gonna be maintaining?
Mr. Potter?
Who's responsible for doing that? Fixing all the stuff they tear up when they put in the cement?
The contractors.
The contractors
Yeah.
are?
The contractor's responsible for restoration, and they try and keep things neat when they're removing the concrete, because they don't want to do more restoration than they need to. So if you want to get an idea of what it looks like, you can drive into Canton, and they're under full construction out there and get an idea, but the contractor's responsible for that. And then we want to keep eyes on them too.
Hello, haven't seen you in a while. Hey,
1537 Arthur Street. I know I have 3 tiles that are pulled up that are gonna be replaced from the tree roots. They are going to take more than 30% of the roots. Are we going to get the name and phone number of the Wayne County people to come out to cut those down? Because my last tree was dead from lightning. It took 2 years for them to come out.
that would be okay, 2 years is more honest assessment of what I've seen Wayne County Forestry take.
Because that's what I'm afraid of, is when you go
You're
to kill
getting
those
this,
roots, it's gonna fall
you're
on my
gonna
house.
call
or
Wayne
it's
County
gonna fall-
Forestry, you're gonna put in your claim, you're gonna call them back in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months.
Yeah, because the tree next to it, they've already taken down. And I know when they go through those, where that is, because that's, my sidewalk is like this because of the root that's in that tree. And when they go to cut those roots, that tree's gonna die.
Now, Wayne County has done one thing that's really nice, is that they admitted that they can't hire anybody, because nobody will work there, because during the bankruptcy, they lost all their benefits, they lost their everything. Long story short is they're admitting it now finally, and they're hiring subcontractors
Okay.
to even work on the roads. So they're giving up on trying to do it themselves.
Okay. No, that's why I was just curious. Is there something we need to start ahead of time before we do the project?
I wouldn't call them until your tree dies.
Okay. Yeah, because that one took 2 years after it died, and it was falling over onto the road, and I was afraid cars were gonna get damaged. Because I am on the curve, and my trees fall that way over top of the main road.
It's dying now, you should call them now.
We did, and they said, oh, but it's not 50% dead, so they won't cut it down.
Is anybody else wish to speak at this public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing. I have support to close the public hearing. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Opposed? Did I do that right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. We're now moving on to, if anybody that's here for the sidewalks doesn't want to stick around, we got a little bit of a long meeting because of what's been going on. You're welcome to just pack up. Correspondence, announcements, and presentations. The first correspondence, we have service recognition and retirement announcements. Trustee Boynton, could you make those announcements?
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, June the 8th, the following employees were the first recipients of the New Employee Years of Service Recognition Awards. Those persons were Lieutenant Mark Buckberry, who's been with the township for 30 years, Carol Towles for 25 years, Officer Patrick Werman for 20 years, Officer Scott Griggs for 20 years, Officer Ryan Bidwell, 20 years, Georgia Baker for 10 years, Beverly Porter for 10 years, Officer Curtis Mowbray for 5 years, and Officer Keith Daniels for 5 years. Certainly want to congratulate those individuals. And for retirements, Officer Mark Buxton officially signed off on June the 3rd after 30 years of service to the township. And Lynette Jordan will be following on July 6th, giving the township 16 years of dedication to the township and to the senior department. Congratulations and well wishes to all those I've read. Oh, and you have
Putting
something
a
to
nice little
present.
plaque for Lynette Jordan for her retirement for 16 years as a director here. So she's retiring. Okay. It is Sherry Frazier's birthday tomorrow, so anybody want to, today, okay, today. I got to make a phone call later. All right.
Happy birthday, Trustee Frazier.
She's recovering right now in therapy. So for fall. Next on the announcements would be Trustee Martin for some events.
Good evening. I'd like to announce Movie in the Park is back with Mitchell's versus the Machines. Come to Van Buren Park on June 24th at 8 p.m. Pull up a lawn chair or a blanket and enjoy the movie. Mitchell's versus the Machines is rated PG and will start at dusk. So that is again Friday at 8 p.m. at Van Buren Park. Also, the next night, Saturday, will be the fireworks at Beck Ball Fields, and they will start at dusk. So be sure to come out. That's always a good show. The fireworks are great, and the movie also will be a great thing. The weather should be favorable, so let's come on out and enjoy it.
Gonna be a great weekend. Okay, on the 27th, we got two outages coming up on the 27th. Denton Road's going out from Michigan to Mott. We've got some water works we're doing, but we're gonna have a power outage over there. And Kirkridge Street is going out on the 26th, Sunday the 26th. We're shutting down, DTE is shutting down the power on Kirkridge for a half hour while they do some changeover work. Is there anybody else? Yes, Clerk Wright.
I'd like to announce a quick election notice. We have started receiving requests in. We sent out thousands of applications for ballots. I think we received about 2,500 applications back for ballots. But starting tomorrow, June 22nd, you can come in and request a ballot if you didn't get a absentee application. Starting tomorrow, the 22nd. Okay, for the August and primary.
Okay. Does anybody else have any announcements? No? Okay, we're moving on then. Any announcements or public comments from, any announcements from the public? Public comments. I have none. Does anybody from the public that wishes to make any public comments? Hearing none, we're into new business. This is discussion on and to consider approval of the 2021 annual audit of all township funds. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Clerk Wright?
Support.
I have a motion by Wright and Bud, as is proper since the full times of life is in that document. Thank you very much. Plant Moran.
Thank you. My name's Dave Helisek. I'm not a partner with Plant Moran, and with me this evening is Kristen Colella, and she's a manager with the firm, and we're here to present the results of the financial statement audit for the Charter Township of Van Buren for the year ended December 31st of 2021. You should have in front of you this evening 3 documents. The largest document is the financial report. There's also required communication to those charged with governance. We're going to spend a little time in each of those this evening, but the majority of our presentation will be the graph package that was handed out before this evening's meeting and will be displayed on the video monitors. Prior to this evening's meeting, Kristen and I did meet with Township administration to go over the financial report and the letter, I'd say in a lot more depth than we are going to go over this evening, just to ensure that the information that was turned over for audit was properly compiled within the document and was received at that time by Township administration. This document truly is the Township's document. The only part of it that's Plant Moran's is the opinion. And as a result of our audit procedures, we were able to give this year's audit an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give a set of financial statements. What that means is these statements as presented fairly reflect the financial position of the Township as of December 31st of 2021, and the changes in that financial position, which would include the revenues and expenditures, the statement of cash flow, and the notes that are included within the document. Again, the highest level of assurance that we can give a set of financial statements, and one we were able to get as a result of our audit procedures. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, and she's going to walk through the graphs. If there's any questions as we go along, please just kind of wave, and we'll answer them as we go along. We will have an opportunity. We will give you an opportunity at the end of the of all the presentations to ask any questions on anything we haven't covered this evening. Kristen?
All right, thank you, Dave. As Dave mentioned, my name is Kristen Colella, and I was the manager on the Township audit this year. We just wanted to take a few minutes to do a brief overview of the financial activity for the Township for fiscal year 21, and that's what we're going to cover in this graph packet today. So this first slide here shows the revenue for the general fund for fiscal year 21, as well as the previous 3 years. Here you can see that the largest source of revenue for the general fund continues to be property taxes. And this increased slightly in the current year, mostly due to increases in your taxable values. The second largest source of revenue for the general fund continues to be other revenue, which includes things such as permits, fees, and licenses. And this was pretty much very consistent with last year. This next slide here shows the expenditures of the general fund for fiscal year 21, as well as the previous 3 years. And similar to the revenues of the general fund expenditures also increased in fiscal year 21 from fiscal year 20. You will see here that public safety continues to be the largest expenditure for the general fund, with it accounting for approximately 61% of the total general fund expenditures. And that's about 1% within the prior year percentage. And once again, general government comprises the second largest percentage of your general fund expenditures at about 25%. This next slide here shows the allocation of fund balance by category for the general fund for fiscal year 21, as well as those previous 3 years. For fiscal year 21, the general fund ended the year with a total fund balance of about $8.8 million, with about $232,000 of this as non-spendable, about $29,000 as restricted, about $581,000 as assigned, and then that remaining approximate $8 million is unassigned. So this unassigned amount represents approximately 1/2 of a year of general fund expenditures, and as such, the township continues to have a healthy fund balance. Shows the operating revenue and expenses of the water and sewer fund for fiscal year 21, as well as the previous 3 years. And here you can see that both revenues and expenses of the water and sewer fund increased from last year, with revenues increasing by about 3% and those expenses increasing by about 8%. As the expenses exceeded the revenues again this year, there was a slight reduction to the ending net position of the water and sewer fund for fiscal year '21. And then we just wanted to take a minute to thank you for the opportunity to serve the township. If you have any questions, please let us know. If you come up with any later, if you have any right now, we're happy to address. Otherwise, I'll hand you back to Dave to cover the end of audit letter.
Thanks, Kristen. Just a couple more items briefly on the financial statement. So when we take a look at the revenues, and I'll try to move back up here. Is that showing? Almost. Just one thing on the revenue. So as you know, the Township Board's aware, you did qualify and actually receive some of the rescue plan monies. So if one's looking at the revenue here, it's just like, well, where's the federal revenues that we received during 2021? Well, you know, with the accounting rules, all those monies did come in. They're actually recorded on the balance sheet currently as an unearned revenue, and they'll be recognized at the time that they're actually spent. So keep that in mind. You've got those monies sitting on the balance sheet. You'll get the second tranche again this year, and those revenues will be recognized as you go along, and the expenditures are incurred. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware if they were specifically looking for those dollars to show up on the revenue side. Within the financial statement, you know, one of the things that I think we've talked about for a number of years has been, and at most, I'd say at most of my local governments, and it really relates to legacy cost. It was brought forth you know, at the state level through Public Act 202 a number of years ago, when the state became concerned about how these legacy costs were being funded, and if indeed they were being funded at all, requires reporting on an annual basis, and really if it falls below a certain threshold, you know, what the plan would be to fund those. So if I could ask you just to turn to page 56 in your large document, the financial statement. I just kind of want to talk about where you are now. So the largest financial report on page 56, you'll see a schedule of changes in net pension liability and related ratios. When you take a look at that, you'll see that the funding percentage, which is the third row from the bottom, we're in the large book. I just want to make sure everybody's kind of seeing. Perfect. You'll see that funding percentage is up at 77%, which is up 7% from where it was just 2 years ago. You know, the township has done a nice job of not only identifying and making the required contributions, but when appropriate, actually advance funding some of those pension costs. When you take a look at that funding percentage, it is above, you know, what the state would deem to be the threshold, the minimum threshold for underfunding, and it really wasn't for the $2 million of changes in assumptions related to mortality tables and investment rates of return the past 2 years, it would even be funded at a higher rate. So the township has identified and addressed those legacy costs specifically as it relates to pension, and the funding percentage has increased quite a bit over the last couple years. If I ask you to turn to page 58, it's a similar schedule as it relates to OPEB or the retiree health care funding. That percentage is right around 30% funded, which is up from 11% just in 2017. Unlike pension, this was something that was just recently identified through some of the standards, and the requirement actually to report this liability in the statements itself is relatively new. But since that time, you can see that the township has again been proactive in not only identifying those costs, but beginning to fund those costs within this healthcare trust vehicle. So while it remained relatively stable year over year, As far as funding percentage, it's really due, again, to the change in assumption. There was a $1.4 million swing, just as it related to, again, the mortality table and the rate of return in this past year. So I just bring that to everyone's attention because legacy costs continues to be a hot topic in the funding of those legacy costs. So I just wanted to give you an idea of where the townships, not only where the township stands, but where you can find that information within your document.
Any questions?
The last thing I'd like to cover then, if there's nothing on the financial side, is really the required communication to those charged with governance. So as a reminder, as I mentioned earlier, we were able to give an unmodified opinion on the financial statement audit, and that's what we're engaged to do is a financial statement audit. We don't do an internal control audit, and while the standards do require us to get an understanding and test the internal controls, we don't give an opinion on the internal control system as a whole. However, during the course of that audit, if things come to our attention that we need to communicate to management, we do so in this letter. In page 2, we've got a couple of items that we did identify. One in particular was just related to the procurement policy and the procurement system. So there was just one instance, while it ultimately did get signed off by the board, just make sure that you're following the formal bidding procedures when you're going through that. We brought this one item up. We identified one item during our testing that didn't exactly follow the procurement procedure. We expanded our testing and found that that looked to be the only an exception versus the norm. The only other item we really had was some journal entries as it related to the audit procedures that we performed. We did have to make some adjustments related to capital, debt, and your self-insurance liability, but this really related just more of a year-end year-end closing entries, and weren't things that were impacting revenue expenditure on your basically on your budgeted basis during the year. So what that normally would lead me to believe is the information that was being provided to this board throughout the year was quality, as we didn't result in a bunch of journal entries at the end of the year to bring them in compliance with GAAP. And then finally, I guess the third item, section 3, while not required, we've got legislative and other kind of recommendations. And there's really two things I want to make sure the township keeps in mind is cybersecurity, and I know your IT folks are really good, but boy, I know our firm is constantly getting hit with attacks, and we've got a whole department that's making sure our sensitive information is secure. And just a reminder that everybody thinks they're doing good, and we just got to all make sure that we're keeping the bar pretty high as far as protecting that sensitive information. So that's just a reminder on cybersecurity really being out there. And then the last item, as the township does start to spend down those rescue plan monies, there are these are federal grants which are involves compliance. So just a reminder to make sure that we're reviewing all of the grant requirements, the procurement requirements in particular, at times can actually be more restrictive perhaps than what the township has. So if the township's procurement as it relates to specific grants are more restrictive, that's great, and you can live by them. If they're less restrictive, it's just a reminder you've got to go with what the grant agreement says. So as Kristen had indicated, we're here before you, presenting the results of the audit. The finance team, the treasurer's team, everyone who was involved was terrific in providing the information to us. It was great to actually be back out in town hall and meeting with people again to perform the audit. We will meet as a result of this, the township's requirement under Public Act 2 of 1968 to upload the file to Treasury within 180 days of year end. So based on the acceptance of this report, Kristen and I will make sure that's uploaded tomorrow morning. So with that, any questions, comments on anything that we covered or anything perhaps that we didn't cover this evening related to the audit?
The chair.
Sure.
I guess I'd have to say once again, it was our pleasure to have you in our building it was nice to see the girls walking by my office, because they were always looking for my Sean. Sean, Carol, all of them in the clerk's office, my staff, I think. It's just nice to see how well you all interact, and we appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else? I really appreciate it. We, again, there was one little thing that they caught, and quite frankly, it was a procurement policy mistake that would happen in between directors. But Nicole Sumter, in her wisdom, set up a class, and every single solitary employee took it on the procurement policy, and we all know it now. Okay. But that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll look forward to dealing with you at one of the many, many other places I see you, but here in a year.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Call for the motion.
Okay. I have a motion by Clerk Wright, supported by Sherry Budd.
Yep.
Treasurer Budd. Does anybody have any last questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dave. Bye, Kristen. Thank you. All right, number 2, discussion on to consider approval of personal service agreement for our new director of, hopefully, water and sewer, Kevin Lawrence. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
Miller? Trustee Miller? Supported by Clerk Wright. Okay. All right, Nicole.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Board. I'm going to make a small little request.
Take them both
to
together?
Yes, can I
Sure,
put
can
2
I get
and
them
3 together?
Trustee Miller, could you add in the,
Make a motion for number 3 as well,
great,
for
thank you.
Joseph Ketchum.
And Clerk Wright, would you amend your motion? Support? Okay, go for it.
I would like to introduce to you all 2 directors for approval tonight. This is Kevin Lawrence, who we're bringing to you as the new Water and Sewer Director upon approval, and Joseph Ketchum as our new Director of Parks, again with approval. Both of these gentlemen come with a very extensive background in their field. Joseph Ketchum has been in parks since 1996, and Kevin Lawrence has been in the water and sewer industry for over 2 decades as well. He also comes with a background in public works and public services. I do believe that these 2 gentlemen have gone through a very extensive interview process with myself, Joe, Jennifer, Elizabeth. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't be here tonight, but he was also in the interview process. And we do believe that their experience, their background, their knowledge in their field will be great assets to the township. And with that, I would like to ask for the board's approval. And if you have any questions, I will take them at this time.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, well, come on up. Let's start with Kevin. All right, so although I did not interview you, I did interview the interviewers, and I did call your references personally because I actually knew them, and they spoke very, very well of you. I was almost a little bit concerned because he has worked in some areas that were, quite frankly, not great water systems. Turns out that he was brought in to fix that problem, and he did, and I was very happy to see that. Chris, who was on your interview board, is going to be one of your employees. He said he'd be proud to work for you. He thinks that you're going to be great, so I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Okay. And I know less of you only because of the fact that you came here with glowing comments, and I'm not a real parks guy. I'm trying to become a parks guy. Parks from West Bloomfield, you had, I heard, 30 people?
Well, 30 years. I put 30 years in it.
Was it 80 people?
Well, up to, depending on the situations and seasons, we could have up to 80 employees, yes.
Okay, well, you won't have that here, so.
Which I'm thankful for, because that's a lot of seasonal employees in the summertime.
So we have a real raw parks area program, and we're trying to build it out right now, and we're excited that 30 years of experience.
Well, I will say this, at West Bloomfield, when I started, it was pretty raw, too. When I started there, we had one garage that did not have a bathroom. It was a pole barn with 2 stalls, and needless to say, 30 years later, we have a lot more systems in place at West Bloomfield. So I'm very used to starting off with a raw Parks Department.
And your interview team spoke very well of you. Go ahead, Clerk.
I'm just saying, it sounds like you all got in.
Last thing I would like to add is if your previous supervisors are watching, you cannot have them back. The background Chip Bazzi did, it was just like for both of these gentlemen, just hire them, because the only thing they kept saying was, I would love to have them come back and work for me. So hopefully you'll approve them and they will be Van Buren Township directors.
Okay.
Get her
Any
done.
others? Hearing none? I have a motion by trustee Miller, supported by clerk Wright. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome aboard.
Congratulations.
Could you guys come up and do the swing through, because it's ceremony. We've always done that. Yeah, thank you. See you soon. See you tomorrow. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you for coming aboard.
All right. Okay, where am I? 3,
You're getting
4,
there.
thanks. I love my classes
Can we
in
do
my
4,
office.
5, and 6 together, the first readings? Can't we put them together?
Yeah.
Can you put first readings together?
First reading, I think, yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna call for a motion on numbers 4, 5, and 6. And since they're first reading, I think you gotta read them, right?
Through the chair.
Trustee Martin?
I make a motion that we combine items 4, 5, and 6. Item 4 is to consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 06-07-22, parent 1, to discuss an approval of the amendment of Chapter 90, waterways, Article 1, to amend Section 90-18. Item 5 is to consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 06-07-22, parent 2, to discuss an approval of the amendment of Chapter 90, waterways, Article 2, boat and water safety, Division 3, operating requirements, to amend Section 90-67 and 90-69. And number 6 is to consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 06-21-22, parent 1, to rezone 30.88 acres of property from R1B, single-family residential, to M1 light industrial.
Support.
Okay. That was a handful. I forgot that was in there. All right, we have motion, we have support. Can I have the following, the 2 chiefs up here and Dan Power, I guess?
You know, we should have thrown number 7 in too.
We can include it.
Forgot about
Can we amend?
Your one.
feed them 7.
Through the chair.
Yes,
I'd
go
like to
ahead.
amend my motion to include item 7.
Another reading?
To consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 06-21-22, parent 2, to discuss an approval of the amendment of Article 2, Fire Prevention Code of Chapter 46, Fire Prevention and Protection, to amend Section 46-31.
Support.
Thank you. We'll start with Chief Wright. Chief Wright, could you talk about the lake?
Good evening, Board. Sorry, let me get up closer here. Sorry about that. The very first one, item number 4, that has to do with decriminalizing some of the violations. Most everything on the water is a misdemeanor. And with that, so we are lessening the less serious misdemeanors down to a civil infraction, which will also allow us to operate the same as Wayne County does. We're basically going to be enforcing the laws the same way, under the same type of ordinance, the same charges, civil infraction versus a misdemeanor, regarding this one. And an example of changing a misdemeanor to a civil infraction is, like I said, typically everything is a misdemeanor on the water. We're decriminalizing it. It's just like it is on the road, a traffic violation. So if you're speeding on the water now, once this is adopted, it'll be a civil infraction. It can be handled without an appearance. Misdemeanors require an appearance in court. Civil infractions, if somebody doesn't want to contest it and they agree with it, they can pay it just like a regular traffic ticket. So that's basically what that one is all about. It's lessening the non-serious violations down to a civil infraction. The second one, item number 5, is there was some language changes in the law, and so they cleaned up some of the language changes so that our ordinance would mirror the changes in the law. And we, under this amendment, are reaffirming the serious misdemeanors to stay a serious misdemeanor in our ordinance. For example, drunk driving on a boat, or operating a boat intoxicated, reckless endangerment, like reckless driving on a boat, that's still a misdemeanor. And the other part of this is, for example, like a young person who has to go get a boater's safety certificate to operate a boat on the water. They don't have a driver's license, but they can get a safety certificate. That was a misdemeanor. That is going to be a civil infraction. And the reason we want to do that is, number one, it's younger people, and we want to give them the opportunity to go get that boater's safety. So we can hold that over their head as a civil infraction and hopefully get the compliance and get the safety training that they need. The other part of that is the ordinance will allow, because under state law, for example, if you're stopped driving, the officer can get your proof of insurance through electronically. We can pull it up electronic. You can do the same thing with this boater safety card. We'll be able to pull that up electronically if you didn't have it on you. So that's part of this adoption as well. But that's what those two are all about.
Okay. Mr. Power, could you come up and talk about your resolution of the Ashley Capital move?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you, Board. Just sometimes the planning items need some graphic explanation, so I'll give a brief overview of this case. We have tonight with us Dennis Schultz and Ken Bowen and Susan Harvey with Crossroads Distribution Center North. That is the development group that is responsible for the 200 to 300 acres somewhere in there of development that's occurring west of Haggerty Road between Ecorse Road and Van Born Road. What their request is to rezone some parcels that appear kind of as that bright green on the screen here, just under 31 acres in total, from R1B single family residential to M1 light industrial. And the reason for that is because this is the balance of property that they have ownership of that is not yet zoned industrially. So it allows for the expansion of some of the logistics, manufacturing and warehousing uses in this area to be able to, particularly to be able to grow into their second phase of development, which is kind of everything north of that halfway point on the screen here. Now, the Planning Commission reviewed the requests in 2 different meetings. The first meeting was on May 11th, where 29 of the roughly 31 acres were considered and a public hearing was held. The Planning Commission voted at that meeting to forward a recommendation for the adoption of the rezoning on those parcels. There was a second meeting on May 25th, and that was because there was a closing on one additional property at 6690 Haggerty Road that was not in place when they wanted to get the first slew of rezonings done. So there was just a second meeting for a second hearing on that one. And that's that one that you see pointed to there. I'll really briefly summarize what the findings are, but anytime the Planning Commission is asked to recommend a rezoning and the board is asked to adopt a rezoning, it's effectively a change to the zoning map for the township. So there's a stringent set of criteria that go along with that. Broadly speaking, this entire area is designated as a light industrial future land use area. These rezonings are consistent with the master plan designation for light industrial. The development pattern of the area supports this type of rezoning. Pending site plan review, there are a number of items that will be addressed and improved as part of the rezoning, including potentially road improvements, as well as good design standards regarding buffering and landscaping that will make sure these parcels are developed responsibly. And one of the other big factors that we look at is whether the current zoning would be more appropriate, and the current uses would be more appropriate or excuse me, whether the proposed uses would be appropriate under the current zoning district. And with single-family residential zoning in this area, it's not an area that's suitable for warehousing, manufacturing, and logistics growth. So the Planning Commission found that based on the standards of Article 12, Chapter 5 of the zoning ordinance, that this is a suitable place for this kind of rezoning. And just for a little bit of additional information, I'll show you kind of on the left there is, you can see the overall trend of development here. You have the Phase 1 project, which is well underway. We have just under 1 million square feet of buildings that are constructed, another 650,000 plus in the third building. That's that kind of that pad. See here that has a permit out for it. So the Phase 1 project is well on its way and will be done in the near future. And the rezonings are going to help facilitate some of the gaps that will allow for the Phase 2 project to eventually be built. The image on the right just shows the areas that are currently zoned either MT, which is industrial transportation, or M1, which is the kind of the lighter green off to the side, and that's the zoning that's proposed tonight, which is light industrial. Just an important point about the M1 rezoning. M1 is more of a light industrial, as I said, and that's going to be accounting for smaller warehousing spaces. The MT is what you see in the center of that site, and that's the big distribution centers with a lot of truck parking and truck traffic. And remember, this is an area of the township that's been designated for these types of distribution centers. So this type of rezoning fits well into an area that's been planned this way for a while. So with the Planning Commission's recommendation, I recommend that the board goes ahead and adopts the ordinance that would allow these rezonings to occur.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Dan Power on the rezoning of those properties? No? Okay. All right, come on up, Dave McAnally. Dan, you do good work.
The fire code that we're proposing to change is updating to the new one, which is 2020 or 2021 for the NFPA fire code, which we have. They run on a 3-year cycle, so things get missed during that cycle. When it starts, it's a year and a half in, they decide what they're doing, and then a year and a half arguing, they build it, and then they put that standard out. The IFC gives us an offset to that if something gets missed in one, it typically gets caught in the other code. So we're able to stay up to date with the most common things right now, including some of like battery storage, which we have in the township now. So they are starting to address some of those things. And basically the developers and architects and so forth speak code, and they speak IFC way better than they speak NFPA. Although they can do it, it's much easier, and it would streamline the process with the building department to have that ability to keep things flowing instead of having to send it back and have them redistribute it in the right code. That's all.
Okay, all right. Well described, very good. Dan, Director Power, did you do those slides?
Yeah, one of the graphics was from the developers.
Pretty nice job. I see him in here on his days off doing something, and I'm like, if you're doing slides, get out of here. All right. Okay. Is any questions on the NFLPA? Okay. Hearing none, I have a motion. Mr. Martin, supported by Trustee Miller. Hearing any further discussion on any of these items? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. So where am I at now? Okay. All right, discussion on to consider selection of guideposts. And they're going to be doing, I believe they're security. Okay.
Yep.
Can I get a motion before you go?
I make a motion.
Okay, Miller, Trustee Miller, supported by Trustee Martin.
No, me.
Oh, Martin, okay, right, I'm sorry. Trustee Wright, Clerk Wright. I'm out of practice. All right, Director, go ahead.
The Community Center project team publicly issued and advertised an RFP for technology and security design services for the Van Buren Township Community Center project. 5 firms were contacted directly to encourage an RFP response. What we found was due to their current workload, a lot of government grant money being out there, Tech and security design firms are overextended with a lot of their current client commitments, but we did receive one qualified bid at the bid opening on May 13th, 2022. It was opened and read aloud publicly. This bid was from Guidepost Solutions, LLC. We had a post-bid interview conducted, and we received a recommendation from our owner's representatives, which is leading us to ask for the board approval for this contract. The total amount for the contract would be $69,970, which would be charged to the Community Center Capital Center line item, which is tracking all the project expenses. This contract is necessary to coordinate all of the technology, all of the security design work for the community center. Guidepost Solutions would coordinate with our project team, including our IT department and our building and grounds department. And if approved, work would start immediately. Any questions?
Oh, community center keeps on rolling along. Okay. All right, they're hearing no questions. We have a motion by trustee Miller, supported by clerk Wright. No questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is discussion on and to consider approval of section of a cleaning contractor for our new senior center. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Miller?
Support.
Treasurer Bud? Go ahead, Mr. Lockett.
Well, good evening again, board. I'm here before you for you to consider selection of DRC cleaning solutions for year 22 and 23 for the temporary use and janitorial services for Haggerty School. The cost for these services will be $2,605 per month. We really don't know exactly how long we're gonna be over there, so that's kind of why we broke it down monthly. We budgeted $3,800 per month to $4,000 per month. So we were all under budget, and we're ready to get Haggerty School cleaned up.
Okay.
Did you have many bids?
We did. We had 3 bidders, and they were the lowest.
Any other questions?
No.
The senior center is going to be having a grand opening on Monday, I believe, right?
Yes.
At Haggerty.
At Haggerty School.
What time?
Doing a soft launch on Monday, June 27th, but we will be having an ice cream open house on Wednesday, July 6th from 12 to 2, which we would love to see y'all
July
there.
6th from 12 to 2. Okay. All right. Okay, this is pretty much, we've got to clean up after ourselves, so. Hearing no further questions, I've got a motion, I've got support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. The last one is a resolution to accept jurisdiction of the maintenance responsibilities for Iron Bell
I'll do
Trail.
that one. Through the chair.
Clerk Wright.
Consider approval of Resolution 20-22-10, resolution to accept jurisdictions and maintenance responsibility for Iron Bell Trail Section B project.
Support.
Was that Martin? Okay, Martin. Trustee Martin. Okay, Director, thank you.
Good evening again. As you're aware, Van Buren Township and our funding partners have been diligently working to close the gap on our Iron Bell Trail path throughout the township. We have recently received news that we secured grant funding for Section B of the trail. This section spans 1.25 miles. It's an 8 to 10 foot asphalt path starting at the intersection of Rawsonville and Grove Street. The path turns northeast on I-94 Service Drive, curving east some more and follows the road until it turns into Van Buren Park. Pathway travels through the park and ends right up at the saddle. Stay tuned for a more formal grant announcement that will be coming shortly that highlights our funding partners. But in the meantime, we must approve the bid award for the project, which will be coming to the board at next meeting. And what we're doing here tonight is to approve a resolution for Wayne County that essentially accepts jurisdiction for that trail segment and also maintenance responsibilities. in order to get the construction permit from the county, we have to do a resolution like this.
Okay. So basically, it's the same as any pathway that we have running through a parkway. That's our responsibility to maintain. Okay. And so anybody that's thinking about saying no to this, granting us an easement, we will build it anyway, but we will make it a sidewalk and it will be your problem to maintain. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
All right. Hearing no questions, we have a motion, we have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is reports. We have a
No,
report.
wait a minute, we gotta do number
Got
11,
one more,
waste management.
waste management. We added it.
Okay, well, I didn't, I had a consent. You want to do that way? Okay. Who's got the paperwork for it? I need a motion.
Why do we add to the general?
Added it to the bottom,
We added it to new business.
Session, though. Why did we do a closed session?
yeah, but we can't vote in closed session.
We can't vote. Closed session. We're
Let's
supposed
do
to
it.
have it to the consent. Okay, so I need a motion.
I make a motion
There, read there.
to consider approval to join Waste Management of Michigan in a civil lawsuit against Wayne County Conservation District.
Support.
And I got support? All right. So,
It's no discussion because it's legal, so it's just a yes or no.
That's why it should have been consent.
all right.
Anyway.
So it's up and down vote. Okay, so hearing no discussion, is there anybody discussion?
No.
Nothing to discuss.
Okay.
Just vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now can I go on? Next item is reports. We have a report from the January 22nd financial report, the February 22nd financial report, the March 22nd financial report. We are now into public comment for non-agenda items. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to make a comment? No? Okay. Is there any board member that wishes to make a comment? No? Call for adjournment.
So moved.
Got a motion, got support, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Good job, everyone.
That was not my smoothest meeting.
Okay, that was okay.
But nobody died, so that's good.
Been out of practice.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I thought it was gonna be longer than that.
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready at the front door.
Okay.
Oh, look at you.
I brought in my flowers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have my phone on me. And I just sat down, I was playing on my phone, and it rang, so.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna be in trouble.
Okay.
I'm